Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Bonita Zarrillo, the Member of Parliament for Port Moody Coquitlam, and today we're here to talk about getting flight attendants in Canada full pay for the work that they do. Under the watch of the Liberal and Conservative governments, flight attendants, 80% of whom are women, have been exploited by extremely wealthy and profitable airline companies. They're working an average of 35 hours a month unpaid, all while airline CEOs continue to rake in millions of dollars off the back of unpaid labour. No one should ever be forced to work for free, yet that is the reality for flight attendants in Canada. Can you imagine being told that you have to arrive to work at 6 a.m., but your employer won't start paying you until your flight is off the ground at 9 a.m.? It doesn't make sense. That is why today I will table a bill to put an end to this unfair and unacceptable treatment of workers. My bill will ensure unpaid work for flight attendants is no longer an industry norm. It's simple. When flight attendants are working, they should be paid in full. Whether they're doing pre-flight work, helping passengers get on or off aircraft, or working during a flight delay, every hour worked will be an hour paid in full. Everyone should be paid for their labour so they can afford rent, buy groceries, and take care of their families. But these flight attendants are forced to work for free because of loopholes benefiting airline businesses. The NDP wants to close these loopholes and make sure flight attendants get their paychecks in full. New Democrats are Canada's only workers' party, and unlike Liberals and Conservatives who protect the interests of big bosses, we will always have workers' backs. We will always stand up for workers. Canada's flight attendants have been sounding the alarm about the abuse of unpaid work for years, and Liberals and Conservatives have let it happen, even threatening back-to-work legislation as flight attendants bargained for a fair deal. It has to stop, and New Democrats are taking action to protect these workers. With us today to share more about why we need this bill are Airline Division Presidents of the Canadian Union of Public Employees. President of CUPE 4070, Alia Hussein. President of CUPE Local 4055, Rena Kisfalvi. President of CUPE Locals 4094, Carolyn Bunyan. And President of CUPE Local 4091, Natasha Steya. Natasha, I pass to you.
Merci, Bonita. Bonjour, je m'appelle Natasha Steya et je suis la présidente du SCFP 4091 qui représente les agents de bord d'Air Canada basés à Montréal. Je suis agent de bord depuis plus de 25 ans. Que vous soyez barista, électricien ou paramédic, lorsque vous vous rendez au travail et mettez votre uniforme et commencez à travailler, vous commencez à être payé. Mais dans le secteur aérien, on commence seulement à être payé lorsque l'avion est en mouvement, c'est-à-dire généralement quelques heures après qu'on a commencé à travailler. La plupart des gens ignorent complètement que lorsqu'on procède à l'embarquement ou au débarquement, on n'est pas payé. Quand on effectue des contrôles sécuritaires, on n'est pas payé. Quand le vol est retardé, on n'est pas payé. Toutes ces heures s'accumulent. Au Canada, les agents de bord effectuent une moyenne de 35 heures de travail par mois sans aucune rémunération. La majorité des agents de bord travaillent à temps plein malgré un horaire épuisant et elles gagnent moins que 30 000 par année. Les travailleuses et les travailleurs dans notre secteur souffrent. Rien ne justifie que les entreprises qui font des milliards en profit continuent à nous forcer à travailler gratuitement. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rena Kisfalvi. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of CUPE Airlines Division, and I have been a flight attendant at Sunwing Airlines for 14 years. As flight attendants, we are the face of the companies we represent, and we're also the most taken advantage of. This industry has a long history of sexist policies and practices that undervalue the work performed by a predominantly female workforce. Our union has worked tirelessly over the years to overturn those practices, and unpaid work is no different. We are on the doorstep of overturning this practice once and for all. For decades, our employers have tried to convince us that the practice of forcing employees to perform hours and hours of free work is normal, because that's just the way it has always been. Those days are over. The decades of exploitation and unfairness that saw these companies thrive off the unpaid labor of flight attendants are coming to an end.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Bugnon, and I am the president of CUPE Local 4094, representing Air Canada flight attendants based in Vancouver. And I have been a flight attendant for 38 years. Consultation is crucial when we look to right historical wrongs and empower people who have been overlooked for so long. Earlier this year, the Conservative Party hastily put together Bill C-409, the so-called Fairness for Flight Attendants Act. It was ironic because they did so without ever picking up the phone to ask us what we wanted to see in their bill. They seemed a lot more eager to fundraise off our issue and erase our voices from the conversation. And to no one's surprise, the Conservative bill, C-409, doesn't make life fair for us. It is filled with loopholes that will allow airlines to continue undervaluing the work that flight attendants do to keep the public safe in the air and on the ground. With that in mind, I think it's important to underline that this bill is the bill that flight attendants wanted, and we are grateful to Bonita and the NDP for working with us as partners to develop this legislation.
My name is Alia Hussein, and I'm the president of CUPE Local 4070, representing cabin crew at WestJet, Encore, and Swoop, and I'm a proud flight attendant of 17 years. This is a historic day for us as flight attendants because this bill is about addressing a historic exploitation. This bill is about changing what business as usual means for our industry. It means that respecting the profession of workers who keep the public safe at 30,000 feet and paying them their full wage for all hours worked. We are thrilled to be standing here with the NDP today as they introduce the bill. We know other opposition parties have expressed their support to us too. What's missing here so far has been the support of the Liberals and the government itself. But today is a new day. Every party in the House of Commons has the opportunity to do the right thing and help end this unfair practice by turning this bill into law before the next election. We call on all parties to stand behind this bill and finally tell the airline industry that unpaid work simply will not fly. Thank you.
So you've heard from the presidents today how important this is, and you've heard from the presidents today how timely and how urgent this is. So I'll now take questions.
Okay. It's almost like an exclusive interview because I'm the only one here. One of your guests said that the government has not so far supported this bill. Have they given any rationale why that is?
Well, I think we've seen decades and decades of both Liberals and Conservatives not taking serious women and the workers in the airline industry. Flight attendants have been ignored by governments decades after decades, and it's a continuation of that. And we're here as the NDP to change that with the support of the unions.
It seems like the Conservatives also tabled a similar bill, although it wasn't adequate according to your guests. So are they supporting this bill, and do you think that they might actually implement it if they are in power?
Wouldn't it be great to have unanimous support to correcting a long-standing wrong for flight attendants in Canada? It would be wonderful to see all of the parties come together and make this happen and make it happen quickly.
Do you have any examples of any loopholes that were in the Conservative bill and that weren't closed? Basically, what are the differences between what you're proposing today and what the Conservatives were proposing?
What we know is that Conservatives are no friends to workers. It is the NDP that have always stood with workers, and we know that the NDP have a bill that's going to make sure that flight attendants are paid in full for all the hours that they are worked. This is something that we know the other parties have not invested in, they haven't given any attention to, and this is where we're going with this bill together alongside the unions.
I don't, either you or one of your guests have any specifics as to like what the differences are between your bill and what the Conservatives
I'm going to give
have.
an opportunity if somebody would like to speak to it. Did you want to speak to it, Karen?
Thank you. The NDP has consulted with the unions, and that's the key important topic here, is it is a historical injustice of how flight attendants are paid. And it takes a conversation with the workers and a conversation with the union that represents the workers in order to get it right. And that's what the NDP has done, as opposed to what the Conservatives did, which was really to garner votes, to pretend to be the party of the workers, which they're not. And we're thankful for the NDP for getting it right.
I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, specifically, you know, what is the difference between what the Conservatives were proposing and what you're proposing today, and, you know, given that you have consulted?
So after a long consultation, we know that the issue is full pay. We know that up to 35 hours a month, flight attendants are working for free. They are on the job, in uniform, ready to work, being at the behest of the employer and not being paid. That is what the NDP bill addresses. That's what the Conservatives does not.
Okay. Last question. Oh, well, in that case, Ms. Zarrillo, just because of the news happening this weekend, I just wanted to get your take on the result in British Columbia, the fact that we still don't know who will be forming government, and what does this mean for the federal NDP party?
Well, I want to say thank you to all of the candidates that ran for the BC NDP. We know that it's a wait. We're going to be waiting a few days, but I certainly really thank them so much for the work that they've done and so much for standing up against Conservative cuts. We know that the Conservative history is cuts, cuts, cuts. We had a strong team in BC that stood up against those cuts, and I look forward to the results in just under a week.
Well, does that mean that the federal NDP can go into an election, given what happened in BC?
Right now, today, we're focused on standing up for workers. We're focused on doing the work for Canadians, so that's what I'm going to stay focused on today. It's a very, very, very exciting day for flight attendants in this country. Their voices have been heard, it's been acted on, and we're looking forward to taking this forward and making sure that going forward, unpaid work won't fly in Canada.
Thank you very much.